Alright, and we're live.
Can they hear us?
Yeah, now they can. Now
Okay.
they're home. Alright, so how you feeling, Marcus?
I'm well. And yourself?
Good. I want everybody to know I'm shorter because the C is shorter. Marcus is not. So we are just finished day one, Denver Comic Con. So we're doing our deep dive conversation about what we did. So we already put up our in the field review,
Which is out now. Check that out. We literally put that out. We're recording at around 7 p.m. That went out at around 6:45 p.m. So make sure you check that out. That is literally just us on the convention center floor talking about the first day of Comic-Con and the atmosphere and the cosplay and basically the vibes of the day.
Yeah. So before we get into that, let's get right into it. So we did get to the con late through no fault of certain individuals.
Well, I will say this. It is my fault that we were late to Comic-Con by about 2 hours. But the sessions don't start until 10. And this doors open at 9. So you're basically walking the showroom floor. And if you are a person who is into just pop culture and comics and video games, when you're just on the showroom floor for 2 hours, it's just it's a lot of temptation.
It is.
And so
it's temptation.
I made the executive decision as the oldest person to just skip all of that and just go straight. We were there at 11 for our first session.
So Marcus, how long did you last before you bought something?
Actually, I lasted. I want to say about 30 minutes. Just because the purchase that I bought was for an interview that I'm going to be doing on the second day of Comic-Con, which will be coming out. So just to get more information about that, and it's always the person who I'm interviewing is an independent comic book creator, and so it's just always support creative. So I just spent. It was only $5, so I just spent that, and yeah, it was pretty simple.
I did not.
Oh, what did you purchase?
I bought a poster. It is a chapel depiction of Spider-Man.
Okay, all
It's
right,
really
very
nice. So let's get into it down to the schedule. So we getting late. We walked the showroom floor for a while, and then we split off to go to different panels.
Well, you stayed on the floor, right?
I sat on the floor for a couple, maybe about another hour, and then I went off to my panel. So, Marcus, what panel did you go to?
So I went to it was a very interesting panel. I got in there just a tad bit late, but it was The Matrix 20 years later, and this year is the 20th anniversary of one of the best trilogies in cinematic history, The Matrix. No, I believe it is, and one of the key points that I took from just like the theme is knowledge is power, and how if The Matrix were to be reshot today, it basically could be a shot-for-shot remake. They really wouldn't have to change a lot, and they talked about how as writers they predicted the future, and so such as like having an online version of yourself and a real-life version of yourself. But now we live in a world where your online version and your real life version typically mold and they blend together. And also how they talked about AI technology, and that was just like those AI technology wireless basically being wireless like as a superpower. And so now we're literally 20 years later and we have that at the tip of our hands. And even when we're talking about automation and how 20 years ago, if you asked a person would they drive in a car that has a response system, not a response system, but like that has the AI, that would say no. But of course today Teslas are like huge, so it's just like the transfer of not the transfer, but just like the difference between 1999 and 2019, and how basically the world is just we're still not taking care of the world the way that we need to, and so that's why a situation like the Matrix would happen, and something like Morpheus would. They talk about how Morpheus would be a social, how he would be painted as a terrorist or a pedophile, and you would see that littered on his social media, and that would be planted by the government. And so that was just some of the interesting key points that I took from that. Yeah, but no, it was a really great panel. I really enjoyed it. I had to skip out early because I had another panel to catch.
All right. So what was your second panel?
My second panel was marketing for artists and creatives, and I really wanted to I really wanted to attend this panel just because well, I don't like calling myself a creative per se, but I am a creative. And so just helpful tips. I'm already at the convention. I might as well perfect my craft and sharpen my iron. And the interesting thing about this session, which was completely new to me, they geared it more towards illustrators and artists.
So like cosplayers?
No, not cosplayers, but like illustrators and writers. And that was interesting just because from my point of view, the content that we make over here at 26 and Glencoe, it isn't necessarily
original.
It is original, but it isn't necessarily like illustrations. It isn't necessarily like paintings or sewing. So, so yeah, it was just marketing yourself so people will find you, your work, and content. They talk about different avenues to reach new audience members and sustain your current audience members. If you would like to know, please just hit me up. And one of the key things that I took away from the session was you have to lean into something that you love doing. And when you do what you want, people will notice. And so that's just been very key just for me in just like these past few years, just trying to like find myself as a person and just as an individual, and just like as I'm growing and going through like changes in life, it's always like I always want to run towards love. And so whatever that and how like love isn't necessarily like a romantic type of love, but just like when you wake up and you love what you do every day. And that's just like something I've been striving to get towards like every day in 2019, just striving more towards doing what I want to love, doing like creating content, editing videos, producing, and doing all that. So that's just like doing what I want to love, and how just like not like some of the things. If you guys follow us on 26 and Glencoe, on our Instagram specifically, we already do so many things. We already have video, we already have content. We're not good with context, and we're trying to build up the community over there. And just how like there's two types of followers. There's the people who know how you do it, and there are other people who know how you're just a wizard and how you need to work smarter and not harder. And that's one of the difficulties that we've had here just as a brand, because we've had a lot of just like outside distractions and situations, and just making sure that like we're working smarter, not harder. And just when people become invested in your process, they want the end result. And just like one of the things I'm going to try to do is just give like viewers, or not even viewers, just like listeners, behind the scenes how we make the sauce here over at 26 and Glencoe, and how we're literally just like everyday people. Like we literally like come from work and we record, and it's just like we're no different than anybody really. We're normal people like every day. If you listen to our content, you know that we're just kicking it. We're just two dudes who just talk about life. So really just like making sure that you know that we're personal, that we're super chill, but always keep it professional.
All right. So I went a little different way with my adventures. So after a few minutes on the showcase, I went down to the Blizzard. So all this weekend, Blizzard is here, and they had their very special event where they were talking about how they tell stories. And any of you guys who
and I actually was not impressed with the Blizzard Funko things. I was not impressed with these.
That is a small. leave my diva alone.
I was not impressed at all.
It's not meant to be
They were
impressive.
just giving these out for free, so that's how much
why
they care about their product.
That is why. Oh. Anyway, Blizzard was doing a panel on how they tell stories, and specifically, so this was their creative board. So these are the people, not the game developers, but they're the people who make the cinematics. Specifically, they made the Diva, the May, the Bastion. Those are amazing cinematics. And they were talking about animatics, so how they go from just an ideal to storyboarding to recording the voices to animating everything. So I really love just looking at what they do and how they do it, and they talked about just a lot of collaboration, a lot of getting in there, working together, thinking things out. And so a few things that they pointed out to me was like when they come up with the ideal of their animatics, their cinematics, they want to tell something, they want to tell a story, they want you to feel something. That's their core goal. So for each of the Overwatch characters, they have this ideal. So for Sombra, it was, what does talent look like when they're working together? So what does talent look like when they're on an operation? What is everybody's point of view? What are they doing? And we saw that in the animation. You saw Reaper was sort of the defense. He was the onslaught. He was completely there pushing everybody back. Sombra's infiltrating. She's moving around. She's moving pieces. You had Widowmaker looking for that point of view, looking for that exit. For the Bastion short, their question was, where does he come from? What is his life like? And of course, that led them to questions of PTSD. And it's a really powerful, if you haven't seen, it's very powerful animation. And Diva is just like, they had this ideal of, so what is Diva actually like? Because Marcus, you don't know this, but one of the interesting things about Diva is she has many personalities as a character. In the community, she's seen as both a just sort of a game meme-like character. In the competitive scene, she's very annoying. She's very dominant. In other communities, she's seen in other different ways. And even in the context of the game, she's very different. She is a pro player who joined the military. She's a defender. She's a celebrity. And so they wanted to get down to the core ideal of who is Diva and what is she like when nobody's looking. I really like that, and it was very interesting. I really do enjoy listening to the behind the scenes of how things came to be. But after that, me and you met up again and we went to Chili's. So what did you eat at Chili's?
Yeah, that's really it's not like a tradition, but it's just something that we like to do, because if you've ever been to like festivals and cons, the food inside is very expensive and it's very
not good.
It runs a checkup very quick. So we just literally we always go, since it's in Denver, it's literally downtown. We always just go to 6th Street Mall and we just get some food over there. We ran into one of our childhood friends and we caught up for a minute. But no, I just had the Cajun chicken pasta like I always do.
I had it was a bacon burger with avocado on it.
Yeah.
I'm a millennial. So after that, we had some more meetings up. I met with some of my old work friends. Shout outs to Lincoln Hills and Robert Smith, give us money. And then we went on to our final panel of the night, which is YouTube destroying how we watch movies?
Yeah.
So just at the beginning of this, I would like to ask the question, Marcus. Do you believe that YouTube is detrimental to how we view movies?
I do, to an extent, just because if you always go to YouTube for like the spoilers before, like the pre-spoilers or like the reviews that don't have spoilers in it, of course there's always gonna have like sprinkles of spoilers. Like you can't review a movie and not have a little bit of spoilers. So it always comes to that. But yeah, no, I do think to an extent, but I just think the panel was he was kind of like all over the place, and he didn't really talk about how YouTube specifically is ruining the film industry. He talked about more like technology and like my like rebuttal to him would be because he talked about how people usually watch, like, they wait a few weeks to watch like the movies at home and on their big giant theater systems and everything like that. But it's really just like, okay, well, it should be the movies, it should be the theater's rebuttal. It should be the theater's responsibility to make it like, to make the movie theater like a home, exactly, where you are comfortable, where you can get food, where the sound doesn't cut in and out, where it's top notch, where the technology is good, where you don't have to wait for a film, or even like cut out. Well, he cut out trailers a lot. I know he
he didn't say cut out trailers.
No, he didn't. That's what just I would do.
You'd cut out trailers.
I would cut out. I would, because like at this point, why have a trailer when I've already seen it online? So that's just like, because we live in an age where everything just is quick. So I'm saying, like, now with the last few times I've been to films, the majority of the trailers that I've seen in the theater, I've seen previously beforehand. And so like,
once in a while I'll see a trailer.
Why would I want to sit through trailers I've already seen to see a movie I want to see when I can just wait at home, not have the trailers, and watch the movie in full?
What I will say is he hit on a lot of the big conversations that's going on in the YouTube and the filmmaking YouTube sphere, because there is a lot of people who get upset at channels like, especially, I know a channel that gets this really heavily is Cinemasins. Marcus, have you ever watched one of them? Cinemasins, they basically go through an entire movie and they point out everything that they think is wrong with it. Like, that's the whole idea of the show. So they point out any, like, editing tricks, if newspapers don't add up to what they're saying. They point out, like, faults in the plot, and then they have a couple of joke scenes that they put in there. It can be entertaining, but one of the things a lot of filmmakers hate about it is they pour their heart and soul into this movie, and then for 5 minutes you sit there and you just go, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. But I also think it goes down to how we watch films and movies in general. And one of the things that I remember, last night I was listening to a podcast and they pointed out how with the Game of Thrones thing, when everybody was mad about like the cup and the water bottle, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're lazy, they're not paying attention anymore. One of the things that they pointed out, because they were older gentlemen and they were telling old film stories, and they were saying in the old movies they didn't cut that stuff out because nobody would ever notice it, because you wouldn't go to the movie and see it 4, 5, 6 times, and if you did catch it, you could tell somebody, they go like, oh, but they wouldn't go back to see the movie. Yeah. But now that we do live in this age where people go see a movie, they point it out and then they do hammer it in. It's very difficult, and it's also very difficult because he alluded to this, but he didn't go in depth, and I think that was more him trying not to like hammer or hate on certain channels. But there are certain channels where a movie comes out and they just do an onslaught of content on that movie, breaking everything down, building up everything to be detrimental and a problem. Just Screen Rant is awful for this. Looper is completely that. WatchMojo, IGN sometimes does it a bit too much. And those channels, they make so much content on this stuff that it sort of drowns out a lot of the actual criticism that can actually be done down, because you do have certain channels like Wisecrack who break it down and explain to you exactly why certain things are bad, why certain things are the way they are in the film. But it's kind of hard for those channels to be showed up when WatchMojo and their army of content creators makes 5 different videos based on, is Captain America supposed to have this or that? So I think that's sort of the problem that he was going. Yeah. He wanted to focus in on.
Yeah, and also we are forgetting the gentleman's name, but he also advocated for YouTube and how YouTube has basically gave everybody the avenue to basically sit in a director's chair, to be producers, directors, editors,
and that's something that we do as well.
Yes, and that's something that he really said that is remarkable nowadays, and how you can do more with less. Like you don't have to have a big budget to really get it popping. You can really do it with just a DSLR and your laptop, and that's really how he started his production company. And so he said it's really a good thing to have that. But yeah, overall, I was left kind of confused because he didn't really attack it the way I thought he would.
Well,
I feel like he danced around the issue a lot. He didn't really.
At the end of the day, he didn't.
YouTube was this is what YouTube does wrong, and he did not say that. He was like, here are examples of what YouTube does wrong.
But again, I'm thinking at it from just a more. I think he was looking at it from a more centrist perspective, because it'd be disingenuous and rightfully wrong for him to go out there and say everything YouTube is doing right now is wrong. Because to be fair, we do a lot of content based on the movie is announced. We do breakdowns of what we think the movie is going to be about. We do breakdowns of the trailer. We do breakdowns of the movie. We do breakdowns of the next movie. That's a lot of content, and it probably does color the way we look at the movies we are looking at. But I think it would be disingenuous to say that this entire system is wrong and we need to get rid of it. Especially because you're putting a lot of content creators out of business, and that sort of system is basically it's a lot of what Pop Culture Con is to a major extent. A lot of what Pop Culture Con and what the people who show up to those sort of events are looking for is that there are several like costumes we've looked at where we pointed out Steve Jobs wearing the Infinity Gauntlet. That is a
Stan Lee.
My bad. Stan Lee wearing the Infinity Gauntlet. That's a push from a very deep part of the narrative, and it's not something that would be known to anybody if it wasn't for content creators and content like that, like things like Bob Ross Deadpool or stuff like that. So I think it would be disingenuous to go out there and bash that entire industry and say this is all wrong. Yeah. That's not to say that there aren't. I know a couple years back people were all mad at reaction channels, but I feel like we need to be more patient with this ideal, and instead of and what I think he was trying to get at is just to get people thinking about it. And I think that's a big thing that because he didn't go out and say, hey, stop watching these videos.
Yeah.
I think what he wanted to go for was to tell people, hey, think about the content that you're consuming before your movie. If you're going to be excited for Avengers Endgame, do you need to watch the 20-minute film theory at least before the movie? I would say, the movie comes out, watch the movie, and then after you know your own opinion about the movie, then go out and watch the film theory and double check his work. Then go out and watch all the trailer reactions, because that's just as much fun. It's just not as quick as trailer comes out. Now I'm watching the breakdown of the trailer, as opposed to I watched the movie. Let me go back and watch all the trailer breakdowns. But I don't want this to run too long. So keep your eyes on 2016 Glencoe.
We actually after that panel we had an interview to do.
We did it.
That will be coming out soon. It was in the world of video games. We're not going to spoil it for you, but yeah, that is coming out soon. We literally, I said it at the beginning of the pod, but we just dropped our day one live recap, what we like, the vibes, the energy, everything like that.
And this will be out shortly.
Yes, and also make sure you check out our latest Dust Off that came out last week, and our Super Flow Bros that came out last week. We're not doing Super Flow Bros or Dust Off this week, obviously, because we're at Comic-Con, and we're cranking out a lot of content when it comes to that.
Yeah, there will be a vlog tomorrow about our day one, and then check out day 2 on day 3. But we're super excited to cover this. Keep your eyes to our social media. We're posting our pictures. So watch 2016 Glencoe Media. Watch my accounts, Metro Meta 26. Watch One Marcus Flowers on Facebook and Twitter, especially Instagram, because we're putting out our photos. and we're trying to make it you feel like you're at Denver Comic Con or Denver Pop Culture Con, because it's a very interesting con. It's very different from other cons. It's not as big as San Diego or New York, but
and
it's not small.
It's very unique in its way, just because how it merges education and pop culture, and that's just something that most Comic Cons don't normally do. And so that's what I think makes Denver Pop Culture Con really stand out from the other national cons across the nation.
All right, so y'all have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, peace.